everyone. Today we need to talk about the 1975 espionage spy thriller, The Eiger Sanction, starring Clint Eastwood and George Kennedy, directed by Clint of the Eastwood. I love the Eiger. I would love to cast my eyes upon the Eiger.
It is a terrifying, daunting looking mountain, isn't it?
What a beast. Yeah.
And it's got such a formidable reputation as well, isn't it?
Oh, it has, yeah. Yeah. Because actually, the film North Face, which is all about the Eiger and the time that the two German lads try and conquer it, isn't it? And Tony Kurtz, true story. That's actually on my list of films.
Right, okay.
But you've picked me to the post. Maybe one day we'll discuss North Face, but for now we're going to discuss the Eiger Sanction. This film was produced by producers Zanuck Brown, who also produced Jaws. Just thought I'd let you know that. I noticed their names at the beginning of the credits. So I was like, oh, that's them.
Now, if somebody asked me to describe the film, I would have to describe it as James Bond meets Indiana Jones meets Carry On Camping.
It's a bit more serious than Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
A bit more gritty than James Bond, isn't it?
It's a bit more realistic than James Bond. There aren't any crazy laser guns or gadgets.
No. James Bond meets Indiana Jones meets Dirty Harry.
Right, yeah.
He's a ruthless old bugger, isn't he, Clint, in this?
He is ruthless in this, but also there are moments where they've gone to the desert for him to train to climb the Eiger, and they turn up and it is like, oh my God, it's like Carry On Camping, this weird campsite with loads of women walking around in bikinis. And then this really camp gay spy turns up with a dog called Faggot. And I'm just like, what the fuck? This can't be serious. Is this real? Is this actually part of the same film?
Yeah, I thought that was strange having that homosexual villain and it's just all like
innuendo?
Yeah, real homosexual innuendos. And
because if you think about it, the film was just over 2 hours long. And if you remove all of those scenes, it neither takes anything away from the film, but leaving them in adds nothing to the film.
It is strange, isn't it?
Yeah, and some of the sort of montage scenes were unnecessarily long. Did you get that? I mean, there were points like when he was training and running up the mountain with that girl, George.
Yeah.
And it was just like, we get it now.
Yeah, you're getting slightly better every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the driving through the desert with the gay spy. And it's just like, you're not building suspense. What you're building is boredom.
Yeah, but it did seem to be mostly filmed on location.
Yeah.
Which, like, if you watch the old James Bond films, when he's driving in the car, you can tell it's
back screen,
like projection behind.
Yeah.
And it just looks, wrong. Whereas this, it felt like it was filmed on location. Well, and it was. And Clint Eastwood done all his own stunts in this, Nath.
Yeah, I know. Apparently the scene in the desert where they climb the tomahawk, that was one of the last legal climbs of the tomahawk.
Yeah. And they had to take all the pittons down on the way down, remove everyone else's pittons that had been left there over the years.
Yeah. But when you see them at the top, it's an amazing shot, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you think George Kennedy also climbed up it, or do you think...
No chance.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. George Kennedy, if you can't remember who he is, he's... Frank Drebin's boss, isn't he, in Naked Gun?
Of course he is.
George Kennedy's character in this film, Ben Bowman. So he sort of trains Clint.
Jonathan Hemlock.
No, named after a poison, isn't he?
Sorry, Dr. Jonathan Hemlock.
But you almost don't believe his character. It's like the bit where they're running up the mountain when he first takes Clint up to train him.
Yeah.
And they're almost skipping, aren't they? It's so weird watching them running up. And Clint, like, dressed in double denim, to go running across the Badland Mountains.
I'm not entirely sure he knew what he was in for, because as the days progressed, he seemed to get more and more serious with his clothing choice,
Yeah.
Thanks to that really lengthy, accurately detailed montage.
So he basically, he's got to follow that girl. George.
Yeah.
Brenda Venus plays George. But yeah, the scenery was amazing. It does look great. And I did love the car chase. And it's like a big, long shot, a wide shot, isn't it? A big panorama of the Badlands. You know how I love a panorama, Nath.
Oh, I know you love a panorama, mate. There were some beautiful locations and beautiful scenery in it. I didn't have any expectations about it at all, apart from the fact that, I seen it had the Eiger in the title, and the cover is Clint Eastwood clearly dressed to be doing some sort of alpine climbing, you know?
Yeah.
And it's the beginning bit of the film that just doesn't fit with me. It felt like a really long-winded, unnecessary build-up to get Clint Eastwood on a mountain.
Yeah, it did. I mean, I think it's like an hour and 10 minutes before we even get to the Eiger. Because the very opening scene of the film, you got the bloke who collects the microfilm.
Yeah.
Dressed just like a spy, you know. He's got the trilby and the trench coat. And you just think, you don't look inconspicuous. You look like you're dressing like a spy. No one else is wearing that.
No, I mean, if you was looking for a spy, there's going to be someone sat there and they're going to point at him and go, him, he's a spy.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, he's got a very short part in the
role,
isn't he?
He's in it and then he's killed, and that's how they drag Clint back in, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, they try bribing him because he's a teacher, isn't he? An arts teacher and an art collector, Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, and this is, for me, is the Indiana Jones part. Like, you know, the college professor that's, you know, fancied by his female students and sort of, but has this completely alter ego sort of different life outside of it. I don't know if it influenced the sort of ideas behind Indiana Jones at all, but seeing Clint sort of, you know, dismiss the female student who's trying to find an easy way to maintain her B average, then you say, all right, okay, so he's got strong morals, that's good. Lesser men would have caved.
Yeah, she goes, I'll do absolutely anything to get good grades. And he goes, anything? She goes, anything. He goes, then go home and study that little ass off. And then as he goes out the door, he slaps her ass and then goes, don't study all of it off.
But that's carry on camping for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
He goes back in his office and then there's that guy there, isn't there? That, what's his name?
Oh, Pope.
Pope, yeah.
Who's working for the agency. Because although he's a teacher, Jonathan Hemlock, Clint Eastwood's character, is a retired assassin.
Yeah.
Which is what the sanctions refer to in the title.
Yeah.
The sanction being the hit. Yeah, and this Pope turns up, trying to convince him to come. They have a bit of a kerfuffle, don't they?
Yeah, where Clint teaches him a lesson.
Yeah.
Which is what you want from your hero. You know, you want him to be a tough man, don't you?
Yeah.
This scene is fine, totally acceptable. The only point at which it falls down, for me, is when he says his dragon wants to see you. Like, oh, brilliant, dragon.
Yeah.
Really? Is that the name we're going with?
In the novel, he's called Eustace Dragon. Your ass is dragging.
Right, yeah.
It's a joke, apparently.
Okay.
I didn't mind the character of Dragon. He's like an albino, isn't he? And he's got to sit under a sun lamp.
Yeah.
And he can't be exposed to any daylight. I love the idea of characters that are so powerful, yet so weak.
Yeah, that juxtaposition.
One of my favourites is Gary Oldman in Hannibal as Mason Verger.
Yes.
He actually looks like Dick Zanuck, the producer.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
It's the same person, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? Same person. Cool. So, yeah, the dragon in this, bit of a weak villain, but...
Is he really a villain?
Well, he works for the government, doesn't he? So it's...
Sort of on both sides, isn't he?
Yeah, I'll tell you who he reminded me of. Baron Greenback from Danger Mouse.
Baron Greenback.
Yeah, he spoke like him.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so.
So he sort of, Clint Eastwood, get him over, they say, I'll tell you what, there's a new painting on the black market that you want, because he's a big art collector. So that's how they convince him to do the job.
Yes, yeah.
But then he's like, what if I don't do it or something? And then they're like, oh, well, we'll tell the authorities all about your collection and where you've got them.
How does a lowly college professor on his income afford these, multi-million pound paintings or whatever?
Yeah. But then Clint, he ain't having none of that. And he sort of puts in his end of the bargain again. Right, I'll do it, but I want paying and I want double and I want signed confirmation, all the proper documents to say that I own these papers and how I got them. And he's switched on.
He's not particularly an easy person to outwit.
No.
And that's a very Bond-like sort of feature, isn't it? Yeah. But, there are these two assassins. They know who one of them is. And Clint agrees to kill one of them, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And it's a very quick affair, isn't it?
Yeah.
The only notable part in my mind that stands out of the...
I know what you're going to say. Where he's got the little hat on. He puts on this really camp voice, doesn't he? And he's like, got a delivery for you.
The way he said it, it just like, oh my God, it freaked me out a little bit. I was like, is that Clint Eastwood? It can't be Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, very homophobic film, wasn't it?
It's not sort of what you consider to be PC today, is it? At all.
Not at all, no.
No. Anyway, he heads back, doesn't he? After doing the killing.
Yeah.
And he meets a delightful young lady.
Oh, the air stewardess.
Jemima Brown.
Turns out she's used by C2, the organisation, to con the money out of him, isn't it?
Yeah.
To get him to go on the second job. But she's of good moral fibre. She didn't enjoy using Clint. She's sort of on his side, isn't she?
Yeah. She's misled into believing that what she's doing for the right reason.
Yep.
But the main drive for her is to steal back the money that Clint's just been paid and his IRS note excusing his paintings, isn't it?
Yeah. So then he goes back and the dragon says, we know one of the killers is attempting to climb the Eiger. We want you to go climb the Eiger.
Yeah.
And Clint's had history with the Eiger. He's been there twice as he tried to climb it.
Yeah, and apparently twice it tried to kill him.
Which, yeah, is understandable. It is a beast of a mountain, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where the film now starts to sort of step up a gear, isn't it? So now he's got to get in shape, chasing
George,
who's
running around in some really tiny denim hot pants with long legs and long socks.
Yeah, and a tight chesty top.
Yeah. Brenda Venus, if anyone's listening, well worth a Google.
And then she climbs up top of the face, doesn't she? This rock face.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm not going up there. She takes off her top, gets her chest out, doesn't she? And then he's straight up there and she's gone. She's a tease.
Yeah, he wasn't overly impressed by that, was he?
No, he wasn't.
Going back to what I said earlier about how he's a tough man to outwit and then he gets outwitted by a pair of tits.
Yeah, that's his Achilles heel, obviously.
Yeah.
She comes back later on, doesn't she? Strips off in his room and then they get it on. And then she tries to inject him with some poison or something, doesn't she?
Basically, they suspect that they were trying to drug Clint to a point where he was a bit spaced out so that Miles could come in and finish the job, probably with some sort of
phallic-shaped object.
Blunt trauma to the back of the throat with some phallic-shaped object. No, so like they suspect that he was probably going to give him some sort of overdose or something and sort of to kill him off because basically Miles betrayed Clint Eastwood or Jonathan Hemlock when they were younger and he's always suspected that Hemlock is around the corner just waiting or looking for an excuse to kill him, and it just so happens that now he turns up to try and settle the score by offering him a piece of information that could help prevent him from having to climb the Eiger, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which seems a bit odd because if Miles knew that it was Ben Bowman played by George Kennedy, then surely he must have known that he was at his ranch.
Yeah, there's a lot of it doesn't sort of make sense, and I mean, you suspect the twist from the beginning. I did, because you haven't met anyone else.
Do you know what? I didn't think there was going to be a twist. I honestly straight up thought it was going to be one of the Mountaineers.
Yeah.
And I was trying to work out which one of the Mountaineers it was.
Yeah, they set it up so it could be, well, you have your suspicions which one, don't you?
Yeah.
I wasn't overly surprised.
No, I mean, when it turned out to be George Kennedy, it was just like, you know what I mean? It is a twist. And
yeah.
it did...
Maybe we've seen it too much. Maybe at the time it was like, oh, wow, that's happened.
Yeah. That's the thing. We're going back and looking at a very, very old film from a very modern standpoint, aren't we?
Well, yeah, it's nearly 50 years old. Clint Eastwood doing his own stunts is a masterstroke, really. He's directing the film as well.
Yeah.
From a distance, you see him hanging off the face of this mountain, and then zoom in, and you can clearly see it's him.
Yeah.
On the mountain. That stunt at the very end, where he has to cut the rope, and then they catch him on the other one, and you see the drop. He was actually 4,000 feet up.
That's crazy.
That cut. Yeah.
That's the thing that does stand out in the latter part of the film is how everything is actually being done.
Yeah.
You know, all of the stunts, everything that they're doing, it is actually happening.
Yeah, no projection, no blue screen or nothing. Some of the shots still just amazing there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant. So, anyway, he heads up the mountain with a hostile team, doesn't he?
Yeah.
There's a scene in the hotel where they sort of set up the thoughts between the team, and Freytag is having an affair with Mayer's wife.
Freytag's the one I think they're leading us to believe is the bad guy, isn't he? Because he's headstrong.
Yeah, that's it.
He's trying to rule everything.
And he's having an affair with Montaigne's wife, isn't he?
And Montaigne's the older French guy, isn't he?
Yeah. So there are already hostilities within the team, and Clint's trying to suss them all out and work out who's who and what's what. And he's looking for this, because supposedly the killer had a limp, and he's looking for a climber with a limp, isn't he?
Yeah. But yeah, the film definitely picks up once they're up on the Eiger. It takes you a long time to get there, but
once you're there, things start unfurling pretty quickly. As the viewer as well, you're engaged in this game, this thing that Clint's doing, where he's trying to discover or discern which one of the team is the assassin that he's there to kill.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, sort of, whilst some loose rock is falling that's been dislodged by Freytag, the German. It hits Montaigne on the head. And then he seems all right, but he's a bit bloodied up in the face. And then they progress on and decide they're going to rest somewhere for the night. And then when they wake up in the morning, Montaigne's dead.
Yeah. And that's almost taken straight from the story of the North Face, isn't
it? Yeah, exactly.
One of their climbers got hit by a falling rock and tried to continue and then died, didn't he?
And then, so they wake up in the morning and they find out that Mayer's passed. And it's like, right, now we need to descend. So they're descending with Mayer's body. They agree that climbers always bring their dead home.
Yeah.
And this is where it starts to unfold pretty quick, isn't it? Clint's trying to secure another pitting, isn't he? When all of a sudden, Freytag, who's belaying him or holding him from the top, his bolt loosens and he falls, and then that's it, just all hell breaks loose, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Next thing the body's gone off the cliff, Mayer's gone off the cliff, Freytag's gone off the cliff, Clint's gone off, and he's just dangling from some rope, and it's just like, oh wow, Christ, that unfolded quick, didn't it?
It is almost like the writer has copy and pasted the North Face story.
It is a little bit, isn't it?
Tony Kurtz was left dangling by that rope, by that window.
Yeah.
They could almost reach him.
Yeah.
In the real story, they pass him a rope and he puts it through his beeline, but then there's a knot in it or something in it, and he just can't get it through.
Yeah, he just can't get down that little bit.
About 6 inches out of their reach, isn't he?
Yeah,
and then just died.
Yeah,
and all that.
Just froze.
Whereas Clint's got George Kennedy, and that's the thing, isn't it? When he turns up, all of a sudden he's limping. And it's like, oh, right, so yeah, you got the limp.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, that's it. But Clint's got the energy to notice it whilst he's dangling there off that rope. You know what I mean? It's just like...
it was a bit of a cop-out having him as the bad guy, but he doesn't have to confront him because he done it for George, because George is Kennedy's daughter.
Yeah.
After all that. And she just got in with the wrong crowd and he's tried to get her out. So I don't quite get what it was, but basically Dragon and that are convinced that Clint Eastwood just thought, well, it's one of them, so I'm going to kill them all. And they think that he killed them all on the mountain.
And
that's how he
lets them believe it, doesn't he?
Lets them believe it because he's not going to kill his friend.
Yeah. So it all ties up in a nice little bow at the end, really, doesn't it?
A nice little bow at the end, isn't there? The end.